everybody. I am Noreen Savage, and this is Starting Out Bright. I am so glad you're here, and Peggy Moore is in the house. It's going to be wonderful. So just to tell you a little bit about myself before we get started, who I am and who I'm not. First of all, I am nobody official with Bright Line Eating, but I have really loved the program. I got started with it in 2019 when a friend, Lori, posted on her Facebook page that she had lost 57 pounds with a program called Bright Line Eating. If anybody was interested, they could just message her. So my hot little fingers got over to Lori as fast as I could. And she proceeded to tell me there were 4 bright lines described in a book by Dr. Susan Pierce Thompson, Bright Line Eating. The first was no sugar, no flour, 3 meals a day, weighed in measured portions. And when I heard all that, I was sunk. I thought there is no way I could do anything like that. But here I was, 270 pounds. I had been dieting for probably close to 3 decades. And I thought, I've got to find out more. Lori and I got together for lunch, and she told me more about the program. And she suggested that I get in a group and that I read the book. Well, the group that she suggested is called We Eat Bright with Lines. It's a private group, still going strong. There are many other groups, including Starting Out Bright, which is associated with these Zoom chats. But I got in that group and I just sat and watched and just was taken in by all the transformations happening before my very eyes. People losing weight, a lot of weight, not just 10 or 20 pounds, but 30, 50, 75, 100 and 150 pounds. And for the first time in a long time, I felt hope rise in me. And I promised myself that if I did this for 1 year, I would post on my Facebook page, just like my friend Lori had, and I would help anybody I could. And I was willing to do that because at 270, I was in a lot of pain. My back was hurting. My knee was in excruciating pain. I snored every night, waking up my husband. I felt so badly about that. And I knew that maybe this could help, but it did. In 1 year, I lost 56 pounds. I didn't lose all my weight. I still haven't lost all my weight. And it's over 3 pounds. As of today, it's 94 pounds. And I'm really happy with that because I've now, gotten in how many, 5, 6 different pant sizes. It's wonderful. But when that year came up and I was ready to post, I felt God, I'm a Christian, I felt God say to me, Noreen, you can do more than that. You can connect people. Here it was the time of Zooms. Wouldn't it be great if those people who inspired me, I could connect them with those who needed hope? And so that's what's happened. And that's how the Zooms began. And tonight is my 100th Zoom, which is just amazing. And I am so thrilled that you're here. I'm so thrilled that Peggy accepted the invitation to come on and tell her story. Thank you, Peggy. Welcome. I am so glad that you said yes to the invitation to take one for the team and tell your story.
It's hard to tell you no. You're such a great woman, and I admire you so much that I couldn't tell you no.
Well, thanks for that. And we got together by Zoom the other day. It was just wonderful getting to know you. And, I told a little snippet of my story. If you could, would you please just go back as far as you want? What brought you into Bright Line Eating? And I've got to say, when I talked the other day, I said, you probably didn't just jump in for the fun of it. And what did you say?
I kind of did.
Kind of did. Which I have never heard anybody say. So go ahead, Peggy.
Thank you. First of all, I told my husband that I was going to be your 100th guest, and he goes, "Oh, do you win a car?" I said, "No, this is not the Oprah show."
No.
That was his humor. He's quite the humorous person. But I actually, it was back in 2000. Oh, I'm going to go even further back. In 2017, my mother passed away, and she was living with me. She passed away suffering from Alzheimer's. And it was a terrible disease, as anyone that's lived with that knows. And sometimes she knew me, sometimes she didn't. I was sometimes just the girl that worked there in my home, but I was just the one that worked there, the nurse, or I was her daughter. Once in a while, she would have clarity. And my husband was always the bus driver or the maintenance man. And when she saw us kind of getting intimate in any way, she says, "I'm going to tell your husband."
Wow.
She met my husband, I guess, because she didn't know him. But I learned a lot of patience during that time. And I also learned that it was difficult and that I didn't want to be that way. I was quite overweight and I did not want to have Alzheimer's. Right after she passed, 2 months later, my father-in-law passed, which left my mother-in-law where she couldn't do anything because, well, as doctors told me, the way her heart broke was she quit walking. She completely quit walking.
Oh.
And she had dementia, and she couldn't remember to tell me if she needed to go to the bathroom or not. So I did all the diaper changing, it was just a lot of work on top of just having my mom. Well, 3 months went by and we were able to finally get her in the care center. And that's when I said, I got to do something for this mind because I don't want to be a burden to my children. That was my biggest fear. Skip forward to July of 2018. And I had thought, oh, I need to do another diet. I've done so many in my life. And it was always a yo-yo. But I had a friend who brought a friend with her and came to my house and said, "Hey, my friend says, I've read this book by Susan Pierce Thompson," didn't know who she was, "and I'm going to start this diet." That's what she called it.
Right.
And she said, "I would love it if you guys would start with me." And I was ready. I was ready to do something, even though this no sugar flour kind of scared me. But I thought, I'm willing. And then we found out there was a 14-day challenge, and I signed up for it immediately. And I just heard the other day they don't have that anymore. And that's kind of sad because that's how I became so sure of it, because it was cheap to join. And 14 days, I can do anything, right? Well, I was hooked. I really was. And so we brought 2 more people in, and we met at my house every Monday until COVID hit. And so that was quite a while. And we just met so that we could stay kind of like our own MM group. Well, in September, back up a little, I did the first boot camp, and I loved it. I loved it. I was so leery about joining it, just like, it's a lot of money. Will I get my money's worth? Oh, it was so good. And I still have friends from that house. And in fact, Valerie Connor, a shout out to her. She was I used to call her the house mother, but she helped me quite a bit. Someone else that helped me on my journey was Shauna Murph. I got in touch with Shauna probably 5 months into my journey, and she was such a delight and helped me. She's helped me all the way through this. And so shout out to her. Shauna, I still love your guts. That's a little thing we have going back and forth, that we love each other's guts. Then
I just have to say, I think she's wearing a shirt that says that.
Is she? I should have worn mine tonight.
I love Shauna's guts too. and
Well,
been a big
I wore
inspiration.
I wore a shirt that said Shauna Murph, I love your guts. It had a picture of guts on it. Wore it to the reunion for Utah, the convention, whatever. And she loved it so much that when I came home, I had another one made that said, Peggy Moore, I love your guts. So
Great.
we share that with each other, and it's kind of fun. Then let's see, I'm a snowbird. I live in Arizona in the winter, and I live in Utah in the summer since we recently retired. And when I was in Arizona, Shauna helped me get on a Gideon Games. I've had a lot to do with Gideon Games, but they've all been unofficial. And I love to do them, and I've been in charge of several of them, but this was the real McCoy. And so I got on there, and I wasn't keeping my lines very bright. I just had a lot of things going on and just wasn't. So I would put my zeros down, and they were all putting ones. And I'm going, whoa.
And just to explain to somebody who's new here, the Gideon Games is usually a group of 10 people who are all competing against other teams. I've been in an unofficial one. And so you have 10 people competing against other teams who can stay brightest the longest throughout the whole term of the game, which I think is usually 3 months.
Yeah.
And so in your case, a zero is not so good. And you want the ones.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I know that was a big deal for you. I want to kind of go back to another thing, and maybe you were going to bring it up too. Around the time that you were getting into bright line eating, you were saying the other day, and I didn't know about all of the work and the caregiving you were involved with, but I know that you said that your husband had all of a sudden dropped weight. Mm-hmm. And so this was a concern when you went to the doctor. And if you could talk about that a little bit, because I think it does tie in, and you were saying it did tie in with your journey. What was that about?
Well, this was, I think, about the time that I took my mother in. He all of a sudden lost 30 pounds, like overnight, no reason. And he wasn't feeling very good. And finally, I convinced him, you've got to go see your doctor. And he did. And when he came home, I didn't go with him. But when he came home, he told me that he saw the PA, not the doctor, but the PA, and they did his A1C. And his A1C, drum roll, was 11.4, which is extremely high if anyone knows A1C. And the PA called the doctor at home, and the doctor came down to the office immediately and said, Danny, this can't happen. You're gonna be one sick boy. We need to get you on insulin. And Danny's father died with diabetes, and he was always taking his insulin. Danny didn't like that. And he said, is there any way I can do this without insulin? And he goes, the only way is through diet. Not very many people can do it, but if you want, I'll sign you up to a nutritionist. He did. We went to that class. From that day forward, my husband has never had sugar, ever. And that also helped me be influenced to do this, because he wasn't eating sugar. He wasn't eating any flour at the time. I'm not saying he doesn't now, but he wasn't. And so I thought, well, this goes right along with that. I'll just do it with him. And it really helped. And the next time he went back, well, I'm going to say within 5 months, his A1C was down to 5.
Which is just amazing.
Yes.
So I looked this up because I didn't know the numbers offhand. I knew when you said it was over 11, that is just, whoa, that's like really scary. Like really.
I'm so proud of him. And the doctor said, boy, Danny, you're my poster child for diabetes, because he didn't think he could do it. I mean, the typical patient doesn't do it. And I've just been very proud of him. But when he went back to the doctor second to last time, which he tries to go every 6 months now, again, his A1C is way down. He's just healthy. He just feels good. And the doctor says, well, Danny, you can start having a little bit of fun. Meaning he can start eating a little sugar, and he won't eat sugar. He just won't, because it means so much to him to not have diabetes.
And when you
so,
said that the other day about that, it made me sad, because I think here we have a good thing going.
Right.
We have a poster child.
Right.
And now we want to rock the boat, or see how far we can, what can we get away with?
Yeah.
And it just kind of goes to, I don't know that there's a lot of understanding about sugar and flour. And I think that we are in this, I mean, it's a very large group of people, but relatively small as far as people who know that sugar and flour and this kind of clean eating lifestyle, this is like health. This is not just about weight. This is about even not that you can cure diabetes, but you can reverse symptoms. Something so astronomical as like 11.4 when a normal is 5.7. That just seems unbelievable that he, first of all, was willing to try. And to, now Deb, who is in the medical field, that's an average blood sugar of 269. The normal is between 70 and 100. So that's more than double what that A1C means. And I can't even imagine like the neuropathy and everything, because for me, what I said in that beginning, I was starting to feel neuropathy in my fingers and my hands. I knew diabetes was around the corner. I had gestational diabetes. So I kind of knew, and that was enough to scare me. And it sounds like you had a tiny bit of desperation yourself in being up close and personal with your mother and different ones, now that it's not just about the weight either, right?
Right. No, totally not just about the weight. And it is interesting. I've talked to a number of doctors since I started this journey, and they don't know about it. They don't really care to know about it. They're happy. Oh, I'm glad it's working for you. And that's about it. That's about what you get. But no, I was super proud of him, because he was able to go off even his metformin that they put him on. So yeah, just super proud of him.
And so there's a question that comes up. I want to ask it while we're still talking about this. Was any of his intake diet pop or diet anything? Danny?
Before that?
Yeah.
Yes.
So did he keep that out too?
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
So when he went on this total switch, he totally got rid of all of it, diet as well as regular sugar. Wow.
Only because I had told him from everything I've ever done that diet is worse for us than regular, and he believed me, and he just wanted to be well. So he went off everything, and it was not easy. I mean, there was times he would go to a meeting or something, and he'd have to have a piece of candy because his blood sugar would drop. Right. I remember at first it was tough, but he made it through, and he kept persevering, and he did it with diet. So he's still doing it with diet.
Well, we're still talking about diet. That you said something the other day, and I just want to touch on this, not a put down to any kind of organization, but we were talking about the diets we had been on. And I know that you got involved with Weight Watchers early on, and that's helping a lot of people. And there was a different organization, not going to say the name or anything like this, but it really spoke to me about what sometimes people are thought of when they're overweight. can you just tell what one of the requirements was?
Sure.
How they
Well, first
called
of
you or
all, I
something?
was 15 years old when I joined Weight Watchers and did that for almost 2 years with a friend. We'd go out to eat every night after weighing in and get whatever we thought we'd missed that week, and then we'd start again. So I didn't really learn anything. But the interesting thing, we decided we'd go try this new place that had been there not very long, and we thought we need something to charge us up. So we went there. I was probably close to 18 and walked in, and I can remember looking and seeing there was kind of a section of the room that was, I just remember like a picket fence was around it, and there was a few women sitting in that picket fence, and I had no idea why until they were talking. And they said, and I remember this before I left, they said, if we call your number and you don't answer, if you've gained weight, if you come to class and you've gained weight, you will sit in the pig pen. And they said, if we call your number and you don't answer with a snort, if you've gained weight, you have to pay so much money or something. It frightened me so bad, but my friend and I we went for another couple, 3-4 weeks. And the fear that they would call my house. And of course we didn't have cell phones, and my mother or somebody would answer and tell me it's them, and I had to snort, just scared me to death. And that's the way I kind of felt like they're calling us pigs. It was
It's just it really gives you it's an eye-opening close-up view when you say this of what the thought of being overweight used to be. Now it's almost turning around to be glorified in some ways.
Right.
And I think that as people understand that there really is a way out of this, that's going to subside as people find health. I really, truly believe that. I think that as more people become more aware and people really are keeping the weight off and the health starts, but that kind of demeaning attitude towards attendees, towards members, is really mind-blowing.
It was demoralizing. It was.
But you said something a second ago too about the Weight Watchers, and again, I know that it's an organization that helps a lot of people. I'm not doubting that at all, that some people really do get a lot of benefit. But as a teenager, when you were going, you were saying that, we're going to weigh in, applause or not, and then as soon as you leave, you're going to go and eat. And isn't that the true, like what we're doing? We're trying to impress somebody, one person who's ever going to be weighing us for the week. This is
Right.
Again, you've gone through all of that. I've gone through all my stuff. Everybody here has gone through our stuff. So how did you set your mind now into bright line eating after all of that? Was it the health stuff with Danny that really solidified it?
Not really. I have to be honest. I loved the book when I read it. I loved boot camp because I learned about this, and that's what never worked on any other diet I've ever been on. It was so new to me to know that my mind was like everyone else's that were struggling,
And was there any particular piece of the science that really grabbed your attention?
For sure. It was learning about the track. I'll never forget learning about the track and how we make new habits, and that track just keeps us going in those good habits. But just like any train track that gets a lot of water washed through it, it can bog down. And when you get off your track and don't think about what you're doing and let something else creep in, it's so easy to go back to the old track, and it will be right there always waiting for us. And when I learned that, I thought, that is so fascinating. That's the way I feel. That's the way I
Right.
feel. So,
I absolutely agree. And now you also said that when you got in, you did the 14-day challenge. A few months later, it sounds like a few months later was the boot camp. How did that go? Did it fall off or did it take a bit to
my
lose the
weight
weight?
fell off. I was shocked. I've never lost weight that fast. And I lost 60 pounds, and it was in 7 months. It was fast. It was a speedy fast. When I got there to that point, I could not see myself thin, even though I was wearing a size 4 pants, a size small shirt. I couldn't see it. I
Mm,
even called in about it. I couldn't get the help I felt my mind needed. And so I stayed at that as long as I could. I was hungry all the time. I would add something because I had my friend that started this with me. She could add and add and add and still lose weight. So I would add something and my weight would creep up 2-3 weeks. I'd be like, I can't do this. So I'd go back on the weight loss. And I was one of those that had that diet mentality to go back on the weight loss.
right.
And I did that and did that and did that until I couldn't do it anymore. And I didn't fall off. I've never not done BLE, but I wasn't 100% in the game. And I knew I wasn't, but I wanted to be. And so it took a lot of surrendering, a lot of the Lord's help to get me to where it finally sunk in. And that's when I had joined that Gideon game, the
Right.
brightest, BLE brightest. And it was life changing because I couldn't get zeros anymore. And so I started getting ones. And that was fascinating to me to think I'm back on. But when I got back on, it was slow, very slow. I mean, we talked about the turtle. It was so slow. It's not because I had gained like 15 pounds, but losing that took forever to lose 3 pounds, to lose 5 pounds. And I still haven't lost it all. And I'm not sure I will because I kind of like where I'm at right now.
So it's not so much that you are struggling so much with the food, but as more like your body image that you're content. I know the other day we talked about there was a point though, and this might have been as you were talking with Shauna, as a guide, as a support person.
Yes.
You said that you had like a brain fix. What did that mean for those who don't know what I'm talking about?
Well, like I said, it was enlightening. It was just like, am I doing this or am I not doing this? I just couldn't keep going the way I was. And something clicked. And I know it was surrender. I just thought, I can't do this alone. I need the Lord's help. And I turned it to Him. And I just had to surrender because it was eating at me all the time. And I was tired of the not having integrity, not being honest, not being real.
Was that before or after the cashews situation?
Actually, that was after, but that was a lesson I learned that stayed with me. I was telling you the other day that this was right after I was really trying to maintain that lower weight. And I would every now and then just grab a few cashews and think that's okay. I'm on maintenance. I'm okay. And then a little while later, I'd grab a few more until it's about the 5th day of doing that right in a row. And I had a fairly new jar of cashews from Costco, the big ones, and I was so upset with myself that I just took that jar of cashews and turned the disposal on and threw them down and watched them
Wow.
disappear. And I know they're a lot of money, but it was so good for up here. I have not had that love affair with nuts since. And I think it's because I did something radical. Sometimes we have to.
You did something radical and visual. It's kind of like a alcoholic pouring
Yeah,
the booze down the sink, I would think.
kind of the
You
way
know,
I
like it
felt.
was a visual and it was expensive and it was like all the things, like you're making a statement to yourself.
Yeah,
I am doing this now, no
yeah,
matter what the cost is, no matter how fresh these are, they're not for me. That
for sure.
I think was huge,
Well,
really.
it was for me. It really was. But it helped so much. And I think of it quite often whenever I have a temptation for any food. I think, remember, you threw it all down the disposal. You don't want to do that again. You
Yeah,
don't want to start that over. So it's been very
right.
helpful.
And I want to just briefly touch on something too, because you said that when you lost the weight, you were really hungry. And when we talked, you
Mhm.
said you were using the French formula at the time to figure out where you should be. Can you explain what the French formula is? And I know you're not using it now, but other people do. What is that?
Yeah. French formula is you take 5 feet, you're 5 feet, whatever. It's 100 pounds yeah, you're allowed 100 pounds for 5 feet. Every inch over that 5 pounds, you add, sorry, every inch over that 100 pounds, you add 5 pounds. So I'm 5'7". So my weight should have been 135. I never saw that, even at my thinnest. And believe me, I was thin. I never saw it because I couldn't get there. There was nothing I could do to get there. I am one of these fortunate ones that do have large bones. There is such a thing.
You
And
know, and
I
I've
have,
heard debate on that, but how do you determine that you're big bone?
well, I've done the test and I knew right off, I can't touch my fingers around my wrist, but also I've had a DEXA scan and the doctor told me that your bones are dense. And they are, because I know, because my father, who died of cancer and was literally skin and bones, looked a lot like the Holocaust. Bless his heart, he hadn't eaten in so long,
Oh man.
so thin. But we weighed him before he died, and he still weighed 165 pounds.
And
And
was he
five
tall?
foot, 5'9".
Oh, so not real tall. Wow. And he
No,
was still
to look at
160.
him, you would have said maybe 110,
Wow.
115. And and then I have a daughter, my youngest daughter, who was a cheerleader. And even though she's tiny and petite, they would put her up. She was a flyer, they called them. She's the one that would go up and do the things on top of the girls' shoulders and whatever. And people would say, "Oh my gosh, you're a lot heavier than you look," which used to crush her.
Oh
But
yeah.
it's because she got the dense bones. And so
Wow.
I
So
do believe in that. And I cannot beat myself up anymore. I told my mother, I asked her when I was young, I says, "Can I ever be as thin as my sister, my younger sister?" And she says, "No, that'll never happen for you." That's where she left it. That really upset me. And I thought, I'll show you. And that's when dieting started with me. And it just became a yo-yo, became ferocious. But
and I have Deb saying she'd be skeletal at the French formula. And I think that is true for many. I think you have to be very petite. I really do. Because it seems quite low, but to each his own.
I know some that are, and I
Okay.
congratulate them, but they're different structure than we are. I am,
Yeah, I'm far from that.
that.
I want to ask you a little about, well, when you said all these diets, and you said that you actually exercised a lot before
I did.
BLE.
I
Did
would
you
take
give it
that.
up as it's talked about in the book to stop the exercise?
No, I stopped. I surrendered to that. I thought, okay, I am so used to exercising, but I want this program to work. So I completely quit. And I'm back to it, of course. I've been back and forth, just depending on what I felt. And I still love to exercise. I dance. I have a dance video I do at least 3 or 4 times a week, and then I walk on other times. And if it's not on my treadmill, it's outside. I love to exercise, but it doesn't make me thin.
Is the
It,
dance video on YouTube or anything like that that you can share?
it's
Or,
it's from The Firm that was
oh,
really popular in the 90s.
okay,
And I bought the video. And
okay,
then lately I've gone online because I want to take it with me when I go to Arizona and don't want to worry about a video. So I got online and I downloaded it. So
okay.
yeah, I think it was $19, but
Oh,
it's one
so,
I can keep up with, and she's fabulous.
and
So,
so you can go to like the firm and find it
and
there?
her name is Allie, and she does the dance, Allie.
What, Allie? Okay.
Allie. Hmm.
I've never known that. Well, that may be something that somebody's
Yeah.
interested. And now we call it the maintenance
Well,
cha-cha for the dance. And I do want to get into that because I know you're happy where you are, and that is just a blessing. Going from almost desperation to feeling happy where you are is just a wonderful thing. What keeps you there? What are those habits? You showed me something that you use with your phone, that you still commit your food. What's that about?
I still write my food every night and commit it to a buddy, somebody. Sometimes that changes who I do it with. It's just, and I don't expect them to read over it and analyze it or anything. I do that with people that I am presently guiding. I really do read over their food, but with me, I just say, just don't worry about looking at it. Just let me do it because that helps my brain. And so I don't know how long I'll continue doing that, but I love doing it because it keeps me on track. And once I write my food down, very seldom do I change what I'm going to eat. Very seldom.
And you actually write it in an app, right? In the notes
Yes,
app?
in the notes app on my
So on the
iPhone.
slideshow, it just shows there's a little app. Almost all of us have it on our phones.
Right.
Click on that. You can type it out and have it, probably keep it for your records if you want.
They're all there, but I type them out. It just takes a minute to type out breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And what I always put the ounces and stuff because that helps me to be accountable. Still, after 4 years, it still helps me.
And
But I
yeah,
love it. I love doing it.
and you do something else that we just gotta talk about. You're known as the salad jar lady. Okay, here we go. The salad jar lady. Let's talk salad.
Okay, let's talk.
What do you do? Now, you go ahead and say how long these things stay fresh, because it's hard to believe it.
Oh, it is hard to believe, isn't it? I make 8 to 12 salads every week. Well, every 8 to 12 days, sometimes 7 days, just depending on where I'm at and what I need for coming up. I've even brought a few to show tonight. What I do is I use a mason jar, just a simple mason quart jar, and I put 7 ounces for myself. I put 7 ounces of vegetables in it, any kind of vegetable you want. I in this one right here, I have cucumbers cut up out of my garden, carrots out of my garden, red tomatoes or red onions, and some store-bought tomatoes. I have tomatoes in my garden, but I don't cut them up and use them in here because it's too wet. So I just use the cherry tomatoes. And then what I do is put on 3 ounces of lettuce or kale. Today I've got kale and lettuce, spinach. I use all kinds of greens and put it in the top and weigh it to 10 ounces. Then I will take a paper towel and fold it, place it on top of the salad and really push it down so it's tight. Then, because I use guacamole instead of salad dressing, I found it helps with my, if I'm stuck and not losing weight, it's usually because of the fats. So I take my guacamole in the 2-ounce serving size and push it in. Now, this is when I travel. I don't do this at home, but when I travel, I put my guacamole in there. And I take my protein, which happens to be kidney beans, 6 ounces of kidney beans, and I put that in top of the jar. And when you push that down, I need to let some air out of that, but when you push it down, you put the lid back on, and it's all in one jar. The only thing you have to have is an apple or whatever your fruit is. And I have traveled with this to many, many places, not on the plane, but I have done this to everywhere I've gone traveling. And it has come in so handy. I eat a salad every day. I wasn't eating enough salad. I knew that. And this is how I made it to where it's easy. I have one gal that started doing this, and I just talked to her the other night. And she said it's been a game changer for her because she comes home late at night after work and she's tired. And now all she has to do is dump her salad into a bowl and it's ready to go. And
that's the whole deal.
it's
Ready to go.
It's ready to go. I have tried prepping with cooking, recipes, whatever. This has been so easy for me. And it's something that if it's in a jar, it stays fresh. If it's vegetables, if I bring home my asparagus, broccoli, whatever, I don't wash those. I just put them in a jar and seal them, and they're ready to go when I need them for cooking.
Okay, so let's talk about the preparation a little bit, because this is kind of surprising to me. One thing that's surprising to me is the cucumbers.
Yeah.
But they stay without being mushy for 7-8 days.
I wish I could show you. I have one in the fridge. I just ate one today, and I've got 2 more days, so it's 10 days old, and it was still crunchy.
Okay, that's fantastic. I love that. I love the whole thing being prepared.
Yeah.
Let's go step by step how you prepare the actual produce, though.
Okay.
What do you do with your lettuce when you come home? Do you just prepare these all at once? Do you wash it, the lettuce? What do you do?
You know, it goes from week to week. I kind of change it up. If I've got a really busy day and I've got the lettuce, I'll just put the lettuce in a sink full of cold water. Sometimes I add ice to it. And I put a tablespoon of baking soda in it because that kind of gets rid of all the impurities that we get from the grocery store. And I'll soak my vegetables in there. And then I'll rinse or drain the salad or the lettuce. And if I can't do it right then, can't fix the jars right then, I put them in a bag and put it in the fridge and it stays crisp.
Okay, let's stop there for a second. Okay. So let me just say that back to you. You're putting basically fairly soon after you get your lettuce, kale, romaine, iceberg, whatever it is, you put this either in the sink or a tub of cold water, ice, little bit of baking soda, nothing else like vinegar or anything, just the baking soda. Let it sit for a while. How do you drain it? Just in a colander, or do you spin it, or what do you do?
I just lift it up and shake it off.
Okay, so then it goes into a plastic bag with a paper towel?
Not even with a paper towel. If I'm going to use it the next day, I just put it in there because it will crispen up and the water seems to absorb into the leaves. And so it's not wet.
So then you also, I thought I heard you say you also are throwing your other vegetables in the water. Is that right?
if I'm going to make everything at once, I will. I'll put my radishes. I'll put anything I buy from the store. I will just put in there, and
So,
I peel my carrots. I wash my vegetables. I slice my red onion. I have jicama in these. I love jicama. It's one of my favorites. I chop that up and I have it all ready. And then I just take, depending on how many I want to make, I'll take 10, 12 jars and line them up and weigh the jar empty till it's 0. And then I start adding vegetables till I have 7 ounces.
okay, now you said too that when you bring in asparagus or something, you don't wash it, you just put it in the jar. Do you wash it before you put it in your salad then? Okay, so,
It doesn't go in my salad. I'm talking vegetables that I'm going to cook.
okay,
Then I'll
okay.
put those in my jar, because a jar, you can keep food in a jar a lot longer than you can in the crisper. And I don't throw hardly anything away anymore.
I'm discovering that. I started doing that with berries this summer. Made a huge difference.
I put all my berries in jars. And I will give you a tip though. This happened the other day. I had a dinner from my family. So my husband just brought home some of that salad that's already made, because I wanted to have a big salad with it. And I rinsed it because I don't like the flavor of those bagged salads. They spray them with something. And if I had so much left over afterwards that I tried putting it in a jar, 2 days, and it's rotten.
Wow. Now I'm wondering, because the other day you talked about that you don't cut your lettuce.
Right.
Now,
I
do you think
on lettuce.
you tear everything?
Mhm.
So you just go ahead and tear it in bite-sized pieces, how you like it, or larger. You can cut it when you're eating it if
Right.
you want, whatever you want.
I do bite size, but I just do it right over the jar while I'm filling it up.
Okay,
And just
so
make
it's not while it's getting wet.
no,
The
no.
cleaning part is pretty much whole leaves. This
Mhm.
is really, can you tell, like I'm getting ready to do this thing because I don't eat enough salads either.
I know.
And I'm being aware of that. And I think it has stalled my weight loss.
Mhm.
So, I got to
I
get
don't
with the
get tired of
program.
salads anymore. I do not get tired of salads anymore, and I used to. Number one, I don't use dressing, and I think that was something I was doing as a habit, and I think I got tired of it. And number two, so now with just the guacamole on it, I taste the vegetables. I salt and pepper it, but I taste the vegetables. And it's just so simple. I come in at lunch and I throw my salad in a bowl and I'm ready to go.
Well, this is such a novel idea to me because when I've made a salad for work and I've prepped them before, I put my dressing on the very bottom and then stack my vegetables with the lettuce on top and then any protein on top of that. But there's no way I would get even 3 days out of that.
No,
There's no way with the dressing on the bottom.
absolutely.
So this is an idea for a lot of people, I think. And when you're saying you're traveling with them, wow.
I travel with
That's
them everywhere I go. And it doesn't matter if I'm out of town for a day or a week or whatever. I went to the cabin with all of my sisters just in June, and they ate what they ate. And I told them, please don't fix anything for me ahead of time. And I ate all my food out of jars, and it was lovely.
And what's wrong with that?
It was
And
easy.
you did say you sometimes even put peas in there. Do you take them frozen and put them in, or are these fresh peas?
I do. I have taken the frozen. Now, when I talked to you about that, I noticed that after about 7 days, they were starting to get sticky.
Okay. So
So,
if you were going to have something with peas, like let's say you were having ham and egg and
right.
with peas or something to make that kind of combination, you might just have those for the first few days
Yes.
and just
Yes.
be ready.
That's what I would recommend. They were really good. I love peas in salad.
Yeah.
I really do. But I'll put broccoli in there. I'll do a lot of different vegetables because I want to change it up. I can
No,
eat the same thing for that long, and then I want something a little different.
right. And now, are you plant-based or do you eat meat?
No, I am not.
Okay.
I do both. I try to eat plant where I can, but
Mhm.
I definitely
But,
do.
you know, I really love that you're putting the protein on top. That could be, you know, tuna one day, but it could be chickpeas or like you had beans. I mean, wow, what variety.
I've often used chickpeas. I've also used chicken grilled. I'll grill a bunch of chicken
Wonderful.
thighs and cut them up and have them in my bags and ready to go. So
I think it'd be just fun opening this.
yes,
Really, really.
it's like a little present every day. You get to open
It's
your present.
it's beautiful. I love it.
They are. They're very beautiful and they're very yummy. I
And I
promise.
know you said you even store them, you know, on the side.
If you don't have a lot of room in your fridge, I store them this way because if you get enough going, you can stack them and it takes up less room.
And you're really condensing it, so they're tight together.
If you only did 6 ounces of vegetables, you probably could get by with a pint jar. I don't know if that would hold all your protein, but it would.
We've got Lisa in the chat saying we need a drive-through with these. Right, Lisa? Let's talk about it.
And I will tell you, I always reuse the lid. My lids are old. Some of my lids have writing on them to when I open them from canning. So I don't use brand new lids. I use my old lids.
Wow, I could just see so many things that you could do with this.
Yeah.
And especially if you can add a few frozen things in there sometimes too, peas or maybe a little corn or depending on what you're making.
I don't know if you're like me, but mushrooms, I can have them a week and they're bad.
Oh yeah.
In these jars, I can go 3 weeks and they're nothing. I mean,
this is out of
some tonight.
You bring them from the store, you just put them in there, and those are mostly for cooking, right? Because you could have them in a salad too, but you'd want to wash them.
Yeah.
So that'd be kind of going with your tomatoes. Wait till the end to put those in. Okay.
Well, the tomatoes, I go ahead and put them in if they're cherry tomatoes. If they're fresh out of my garden, I cut them up. I save 2 ounces from putting too much vegetables in it. Cut them up because they're so good right now out of the garden. And then I'll just put 2 ounces of tomatoes on top when I get my salad in my bowl.
I'm being asked if this works with any kind of jar or just the mason jars.
I don't know. I've never used anything but the mason, but I would imagine anything that has a tight lid on it.
Yeah.
I think it has to be glass because there's something about the glass keeps it cold. And so.
Okay, because I was thinking if you had a used peanut butter jar, but if you don't think so.
If they're not glass, I wouldn't try it. You could for a few days, but I don't think you're going to get 8 to 10 days out of it. So.
But a mayonnaise jar, somebody suggested, that's a very possibility, you know, that you could try that.
Nowadays, though.
Oh, true. Well, Peggy, as our time is wrapping up, I got a couple more questions for you. First, the one is with doing everything here, you know, getting into Bright Line Eating, what have been those non-scale victories for you?
I've had a few of them along the way, and I love it when I recognize them as a non-scale victory. But I'm still going to say my biggest non-scale victory is that I'm where I'm at and I'm happy in my skin. I don't have to be 15 pounds lighter, 10 pounds lighter. I like where I'm at, and I mean that with all my heart. And when I see myself now, I see me. I don't see the big person I used to be, you know, and whether that's time that does that or what, but that's been my biggest non-scale victory is realizing that I'm right where I want to be and I'm okay. And I will probably, because we talked about this, I am on the weight loss program and I probably will be the rest of my life. And I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that because it's right where I want to be. It's comfortable.
And you got all the salad.
Say yes.
Really, I mean, it's beautiful food. Any way you look at it, it's incredible what we get to eat. You know,
Well,
I
I've
said,
been eating them about 5 months now, nonstop, every day, and I'm not sick of
and you
them.
haven't gotten tired of it.
No,
Amazing.
no.
So here we are, the last question.
Okay.
What would you say to somebody who's listening maybe for the first time tonight? What would you say to them about giving this a try, this lifestyle of bright line eating?
I would say with sincerity, it's not going to be bed of roses. It's not going to be 100% all the time if you live in reality. But is it worth it? Oh my goodness, yes. Yes, it's worth it. I would do this again in a heartbeat. Knowing what I know now, I would do it again. And every time I think about it, it changes how you feel about yourself. It changes how you feel about everything. It's helped me spiritually. It's helped me with my husband. It's helped me in every aspect of my life, not just BLE, not just the food I eat, but I can control the food I eat. And if I can control the food I eat, I can control anything.
Wow, there's a lot to that. It's such a starting point, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
I mean, you don't realize so much before you get into it because, you know, you're pleasing a scale, you're pleasing the person who's weighing you in or whatever, you know, counting carbs and points and calories and all this kind of dieting chatter. But really, when you get right down to it, when you realize you have this whole large area, like I said, like there's a big field with a fence. Just stay within the fence.
I get to eat
You've
so
got
much.
so much to choose from.
When I went to that cabin, everyone else was eating food that was prepared for them, and they were jealous of my food. I'm not kidding. I eat more than they do.
Well,
So
it's beautiful
you
food
can't
and
go
delicious.
hungry. You can't go hungry.
Yeah,
You know,
you
you
can't.
just you have to submit to it and say, I'm going to do this. It's going to be what I do, not tomorrow, not next week, today.
Surrender now
Mhm.
and enjoy the fruits of it, really. Well, Peggy, thank you so much. Thank you so much. It was such a pleasure to get to know you, and I appreciate you sharing your story and all the great hints with the salads.
Well, salad lady I am.
Yes, well, thank you. And thank you, everyone, for being here on this 100th edition of Starting Out Bright. I appreciate you so much. I hope you've enjoyed it as much as I have. And so I'm going to sign off as I do each week. Good night. Stay bright. Don't let the bed bugs bite. Good night, everybody. So, Peggy, how would you like to play 3-Question Thursday?
I would love it.
Wonderful. Okay, so we talked about salads with this. What else do you like? Do you have a favorite breakfast?
I really do. It's one I fall back on almost every morning, but I do change it up occasionally. And
Okay,
that is, I have 8 ounces of plain yogurt, not fat-free yogurt. And I have 6 ounces of blueberries, and I have 1 ounce of wheat germ.
mm.
And I mix that all, kind of spoon it together. And that just satisfies me. I'm not one that liked yogurt when I first started this, not plain yogurt. And now I love it.
Did you eat wheat germ before?
No, no. But when you put it in the yogurt, it's pretty good.
And now, do you make those one at a time, or do you have those lined up in the refrigerator
I
too?
make them one at a time.
Okay,
If I am going out of town, I will do that usually with oatmeal. I'll do the overnight oatmeal
okay.
instead. Or I do my banana bars. I have banana and peanut butter and oatmeal.
Okay, my ears perked up with banana bars.
Yeah.
This is all part of question one. What is banana bars?
You take, to make 6 bars, it takes 6 ounces of oatmeal, 6 bananas. I weigh the bananas and they're never going to come up to the 6 ounces each. And then I will add blueberries to that just to add up to the proper amount 6 times.
Yeah.
And then I will add 12 ounces of peanut butter and mix that all up and put it in a pan and a sprayed pan and bake that for 30 minutes on 350. And when they're done, actually what I do, I usually put a sheet of, the paper, what's the
Parchment?
Parchment paper down. And when it's done, I just let it cool for a minute, then turn it over on itself and pull the parchment paper off and cut it into 6 equal parts. And then I just wrap them up in saran wrap and freeze them. And I've eaten them frozen. I've eaten them not frozen. They're just easy to travel with. I went clear to Texas the first year I was doing this and took enough for every breakfast because we were staying at a place that we were far away from any, it was a huge hotel.
Mm-hmm.
Breakfast was $42 a plate.
Whoa.
Yeah. It was a buffet, and I knew I couldn't do that. So I took these bars and I kept them in my suitcase and waited till I got there and then put them in the fridge that I had. And I ate those my husband did too. We ate those every morning. And I came home losing a pound off of that trip.
Do you know what really, that just sparked an idea in me? That sounds like the perfect little bar for kids going to school.
Yeah, and they're good enough.
Do you put any seasoning, any cinnamon?
I do put cinnamon in it.
Just cinnamon? Okay, yeah. So nothing else.
I can't say just cinnamon. Sometimes I put pumpkin
spice. Okay, great. That's really, that's good info.
And they will stay frozen forever. I put them in a Tupperware and put them in the freezer with individually wrapped. And when I need to go, like if we go out of town for a date, I grab one of those on the way out.
I am going to try that for sure. Question number 2. Do you have a favorite mantra?
My mantra has always been, that's not my food. Because every time I went to the grocery store, I would walk in the grocery store and I had to go through the bakery. We've all experienced that.
Yes.
They don't put the bakery on the inside of the store. They put it on the outside. And I would say that out loud to myself all the time. That's not my food. That's not my food. That's not my. I didn't just say it internally. I had to mouth it because I wanted to believe myself. And so that was probably my favorite for years. Now I just say, okay, now I've done a little bit of parts work with myself.
Oh.
And my indulger part, her name is Margaret, which Peggy is short for Margaret. So
right.
I don't know that, but I just named her Margaret. And I will say all the time, Margaret, you don't need that. You know you don't need that. Just calm down. We're going to eat in a little while. Or I talk to her all the time.
Okay, well, that's going to be my third question.
Okay.
To expand on the parts work, because I didn't know about this at all.
Yeah.
Was this part of the boot camp or was it a special coaching?
No, it was just, I'd heard enough about parts work. I've heard Everett Constantine several times about it, just different things. And I thought, I didn't believe in it. I'll be honest with you. I thought, that just sounds so weird. So I got serious about it when I was in the ditch. And I said, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. I don't care if I don't believe it or not, I'm going to try it. And so I really visualized a little girl in me. And she was really, hearing this from Susan, I think helped, but she was trying to help me. She was really trying to help me. and she loved food, and she wanted me to love food because I always have. And so I just started talking to her as if she was right in front of me, you know? And it is so, I'm a believer. I haven't gone much further than that because that's been enough to help me a lot.
Right.
But I have talked to her so many times. It's
Well, this, years ago, didn't they kind of coin it the child within?
yes,
And you cannot help but be influenced by past experiences. You just can't.
exactly.
That's the core of us as
Right,
far as our life experiences based on what we've gone through. And sometimes it's shell shocking,
right.
things that upset us, but we have no way to let that out. I haven't gone through the parts experience, but in talking with like Laura Lively and Robin Root a little bit, people who have done it, it has been very helpful. And so,
It does. Well,
that's
I'll hear people say that part of me wants to, this
right.
part of me wants to, and I never really looked at it that way. I always just thought, well, that's kind of silly, but it's true. There is different parts in us, and if we identify them however we want to see them, it's not so much that this person literally is in front of me, but I visualize her. She has saved me so many times, and I have saved her. Let's put it that way, because I talked her down, and in talking
Well,
her down, I talked me down, and that way, I just feel like it has helped so much to have just that knowledge, that little bit of knowledge
an
about,
understanding of yourself.
yeah,
Like why do I go for the food?
right,
Why do I think that way as soon as somebody says this or that? So yeah, it's a very mysterious, but I think it's wonderful to explore more about ourselves.
yeah.
And we're so multifaceted. So,
I'm all in for it. I
well,
don't
Peggy,
have time to do a lot, but I'm in for that.
I just truly appreciate you
Well, thank you.
joining me on this hundredth Zoom chat. It really has been
Congratulations.
it
That's,
has been so great to meet you, and thank you for sharing your story, and thank you for playing 3-Question Thursday.
you're welcome.
Good night, everybody. Stay bright.